here we have scenes from Tehran. Now, Israel has air superiority inside Iran, which is crazy to imagine because for the last 30 years, or I guess ever since 1979, since this regime took over, they have been very clear that Israel is their enemy and they should have been preparing for this war. But no, what was IRGC doing? What was the Ayatollah doing? They were funding Hezbollah, they were funding Hamas, they were funding Houthis, and they were funding loads of other organizations, terrorist groups all around the Middle East, but they were not prepared for what Israel was planning. They don't have air defenses that can stand against the Israeli Air Force, and that's just crazy to believe because Iran has been talking a lot of big game for the last few years, and it doesn't look like they have the weapons, they have the firepower to back it up. This is the Iranian people just leaving Tehran because that's how badly the Israeli jets are destroying the city. Perfect. We got a lot of traffic is insane. We'll get into the maps in just 1 second. Well, Gus, so Iran had some F-14s and they had a lot of Russian jets, but all of them were pretty much destroyed in the first night. So right when the operation started, Israel destroyed pretty much all the Iranian jet power or air force. And even if they have the jets that they can use, they know they don't stand a chance against Israeli F-16s, Israeli F-35s. So they're not even going, they're not going in the air to have a dogfight with Israeli jets because they don't have the firepower that Israel has. So they're just not risking it. Now, this is just like one road, one clip, and I can understand if you guys want to just say like, hey, what if this is just an isolated road? But that's not the case. If you look at Google Maps, which I'm thinking this is Google Map, I'm not 100% if Google is available in Iran, but you can see how much traffic there is leaving the city. Everyone's trying to leave the city because the damages have been insane. A lot of government officials and military leaders live in Tehran. So Israel is going after them, and the citizens are just out. They don't want to deal with this. There are a lot of citizens who are also angry at the government, not for the reason you would think. They're angry that the government is not putting up a fight. They're angry that the Iranian government is not attacking Israel as hard as they should. And here's more footage of people just leaving the city. There's a traffic jam. That's how much people are trying to, I'm guessing Smokey, I don't know where they're trying to go. I'm guessing they're just trying to go to the farther towns where Israel's probably not bombing as much because Israel's really trying to go after Tehran where the leadership is, and they're destroying nuclear facilities, which one is in Nansa, which has been pretty badly destroyed or pretty badly damaged. There's another one, I can't remember the name, but it's in the mountains. So they're going after that right now. We'll get to that in just a second. We're going through all the news. Let's watch this clip. HB Lee, a lot of rich guys, I'm guessing Iran, they definitely have some businessmen who are rich, but a lot of the rich guys are part of the government. I don't know if they are leaving. One thing IRGC announced yesterday was that anyone who works for the IRGC who doesn't show up for their duty, who's trying to flee the country, they will be considered a traitor. So you really can't leave if you work for the government. But a lot of the families of high officials are leaving the country. They're not even just leaving the city, they're leaving the country. They're going to Russia, and I'm guessing they're going to any friendly country that Iran has. Kwasi, I don't exactly know how long the war will last, but Israel's going after a lot of things in Iran, and it's not just limited to nuclear facilities anymore, and it's not just limited to military equipment. They're going after much more stuff where it seems like Israel wants to destabilize the regime. Now, Israel cannot just overthrow the government by just bombing Iran, but what it can do is weaken Iran so much, weaken the regime so much that other groups, other anti-government factions inside Iran can rise up and overthrow the government. But then again, that would mean that the Iranian people need to revolt against the government. Israel cannot just overthrow the government. Oh, see, all the roads leaving the city are just jam-packed. It is insane. By the way, we got almost 2,500 people. If you're just joining in, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button down below. It really does help us out with the algorithm. And now we see some damages that the Israeli strikes are having on the Tehran mainly. We have some footage of the damages in the nuclear facilities too, but those footage are not as close to the city because there are a lot of people in the city and they're recording and uploading everything. This is a very, very, very loud footage. So just a warning for everyone. So Yodi land, yeah, about talking about US getting dragged into this, we'll talk about this in just a second. Now, Iran clearly does not want US getting dragged into this, and they're actually making that clear too. Even though publicly they're sending warnings to US, publicly the Iranian regime has said that if US continues to defend Israel against the Iranian missiles, then Iran will start attacking US bases. They kind of have to say that, right? They already look really weak against the Iranian people, and they cannot just sit there and take it all, because that will risk like domestic instability. So they're making some statements that seems like they're against US, but in reality, Iran and the Iranian government, even the Ayatollah, does not want US to get involved because Israel's already destroying them. If US gets involved too, they're not going to have a good time. And the reason we know this is a couple of things. First of all, if they really, really wanted to put pressure on the world, they would shut down Strait of Hormuz. That's where like a lot of the countries, a lot of the Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, even Iran, a lot of these countries transport their oil using Strait of Hormuz. I wonder if I can pull it up right here. Let me pull up the map. You guys see right here, this is Strait of Hormuz, this is Iran, and Saudi Arabia, even Iraq, even UAE, a lot of these countries use that waterway to send out oil to the rest of the world. So if Iran really wanted to like be a nuisance to the whole world, not just Israel, they could shut this down. But that would mean almost 99% that US would get involved. Remember when, just on the other side, I wonder if we can get a bigger picture. Okay, so do you guys remember just a few months ago, right here, Houthis were trying to shut down this choke point. I think it's called Bab al-Mandab Strait. I'm sure I'm not saying that correctly. And US got involved. They started sending B-2s. We started sending B-2s against the Houthi targets. Iran does not want US to do that again. So Iran's not going to shut down Strait of Hormuz. But if Iran wanted US to get involved on the Israeli side, this is what they would do. Now, other thing Iran could do for US to get involved is they could go after the US bases in the Middle East. Now, yesterday, actually, we had 3 drones attacking a US base in Iraq, or at least some area where the US soldiers are. That's where like we house the US soldiers. But that was probably not Iran sanctioned. It was a group probably backed by Iran, but I doubt Ayatollah is personally approving those attacks because those were like pretty regular drones. US bases in Iraq have been under constant attacks. And when I say attacks, these aren't like big attacks. 3 drones, all of them got taken down. But if there is a serious attack against US bases in the Middle East, then US would be involved for sure. But I don't think Iran wants that. So that's some good news. But then again, that's the problem with war, right? Once you start a war, you don't know how it's going to escalate, how fast it's going to escalate. But let's finish this clip. Let's watch it again for all the people who are joining in, and then we'll move forward. So this is Tehran. For everyone who's just joining in, this is Tehran. Yes, Will 22. There is some government opposition in Iran against the Iranian government, but also a lot of the clips that we're seeing online, we see protests happening in Iran, but we have to keep in mind, a lot of these protests that are happening in Iran, they're not happening against the government. Especially just 2 days ago when we saw a lot of clips of the protests, we covered it in the live stream. Those protests were happening because the Iranian people wanted the government to strike Israel. So the protest was kind of in support of the government. They weren't against the government. Now, I have more footage of the damage in Tehran. We'll get there in just a second, but it's not just Tehran. It's not just Iran. This is where we have to talk about. Iran has a very successful missile program, and they have a lot of ballistic missiles. And I think they have used like 7, 8 waves. So they have attacked Israel with ballistic missiles multiple times. Now, Israel does have a lot of air defenses. They have the Iron Dome, which is really not useful against ballistic missiles. Iron Dome really goes after like rockets and stuff that Hamas and Hezbollah has. It doesn't really go after the ballistic missile, but they have the David Sling and they have the Arrow. Those are really useful against ballistic missiles. And they also have a lot of US air defenses that we have loaned them, I think. They have the Patriot missile, and they also have the THAAD system, which is the world's best, basically. THAAD system, it can shoot down ballistic missiles in the space. So not even in the atmosphere, it's shooting it down in the space. But the problem with all this is the interceptor. You know, there's a limit to how many ballistic missiles these air defenses can take down. What Iran is doing is they're just overwhelming all the air defenses. So they're sending almost 20, 30, sometimes 50 ballistic missiles at the same time within like a few seconds. So even though the air defenses stop, let's say 95% of them, 1 or 2 always get through, and they deal devastating damages. So let's watch it here. We have some footage of the damage in Israel. I think this is in Tel Aviv.
Trey, what's the scene there? Yeah, right now, Mike, there are incoming ballistic missiles targeting Israel's second largest.
Thank you for two euros, Mane. Khamenei is not fleeing Iran as of now. We have a lot of families of the leadership fleeing Iran, but as of now, we don't have any evidence of Khamenei, the supreme leader, fleeing.
Largest city of Tel Aviv, we can see interceptors coming off in the distance, trying to intercept some of this incoming fire. These air raid sirens meant to send people into bomb shelters across the country. And we're just going to wait here. I want to look at the skyline and see what else is coming up. A lot of these missiles, and there's one in the sky here. Let's see if we can pan up and catch it. These are some advanced missile defense systems that are working to intercept the incoming fire. From David's Sling to the Arrow 2 and 3 system. These explosions in the sky right now are interceptions taking place over Tel Aviv. And right now, you're going to see.
Get ready to roll.
All right.
Yeah, so relating to the ballistic missile, Antonio, definitely they're not cheap. Iran has probably spent $100 million in the last 2 days just shooting ballistic missiles at Israel, but it's also not cheap to take them down. Of course, you have to take in opportunity cost, right? If you don't take down a ballistic missile, how much damage is it going to do to the human life, which is, of course, like, you can't put a value on it, but governments usually do put a value on human life. And on top of that, that's a debate for some other time, but on top of that, each interceptor, so let's take the THAAD system that the US has, one of the best systems in the world in terms of air defenses. The batteries cost around $800 million. So each THAAD is around $800 million. We have 7 of them. 2 of them are currently in Israel. Now, each interceptor for the THAAD also costs around $12 million. So each missile that THAAD is shooting down is costing $12 million. That's why a lot of the air defenses, especially in Israel, they have the calculating system. So the missiles, the air defenses first calculate if the missile that Iran fired, is it going to go in a populated area or is it going to go in an empty field? If it's going into an empty field, they just let it go. They just let it hit. So those are usually not too bad, even if that makes an impact, you know? But if it goes to a populated area, that's very bad. That's when they try to hit it, but sometimes air defenses do fail.
Just stand by and watch this scene, Mike. A lot of interceptions taking place right now.
Yep, Colby, we're live right now.
So, Mike, what you are seeing, ballistic missile fire targeting Israel's second largest city of Tel Aviv.
Now, the reason they're targeting Tel Aviv, we have talked about this in streams previously, is a lot of the defense infrastructure for Israel is in Tel Aviv. So actually, we saw just, I think, a day ago, so last night, American time, as I'm guessing that's what's morning time in Israel, that's when one of the impact was actually on Israeli Pentagon. So Israeli defense building they had, Iran was able to get a ballistic missile to hit there.
We saw a number of air defense systems active. And you can hear those interceptions, those flashes in the sky right now as these interceptions take place. There are still more missiles coming in. We can see them in the distance. And if you look at the skyline and pan up, Yaniv, right over city center, and yet another right now.
In the morning, so usually attacks are happening at night. I don't exactly know why they attack at night. Maybe it's easier to get through or something like that. It's harder to stop them. Both countries are doing that. They have heavy attacks during nighttime, but in the morning we get a better look at what the damage is. So we look at what the Israeli damage was.
To probably near the Situation Room this morning, we're going to go back to the top breaking story, which is
Mane, I think we have roughly a few hundred American soldiers in Israel. So the soldiers we have in Israel, they're probably managing like all the systems so we have alone in Israel. So I think there are 20, 30 soldiers just managing the THAAD system. And that's each THAAD system. You need American soldiers to manage them. So we have them. I think maybe with Patriot missiles, we have some soldiers too. I don't know the exact number, but we do have some soldiers in Israel.
which is war in the Middle East. Trey Yinks is live on the ground in Israel, and we're getting more details and reports about this crossfire between the two countries. Trey?
Yeah, guys, we're here in central Israel as rescue crews are digging through the rubble in the aftermath of an Iranian ballistic missile attack. They believe there are people buried under this debris. There's one son of a father who is trapped underneath this rubble. He's wearing a hospital gown because last night, after the Iranians attacked this apartment building, he was taken to a nearby medical center.
Another sad part is like 40% of the buildings or 40% of residents don't live in buildings that have bomb shelters in Tel Aviv. That's where Iran has been targeting heavily. So that's definitely means higher than usual civilian casualties. So that's definitely not good news. Now, Colby, thank you so much. I appreciate the educational videos. Thank you so much for the $5, Colby. Hey, we have Switch Obama back here.
And he has come back and he's waiting to see if his father will come out alive. It's a very sad scene here, and it is tense as these rescue workers look to see if they can find anyone still trapped. You'll see these chains here on the side of this building. There's a large crane that's being used to lift these pieces of concrete up and out of the way so that rescue crews can go back in. You also hear a buzzing sound in the distance. That is a drone that is trying to help with this rescue operation. And you're going to see right now, I'm just going to show you, they're going to pull this large piece of cement, and this is what they have been doing all morning. There were multiple people killed in this.
Yeah, so James, a little bit later, we will watch what Netanyahu said, because he shared a lot of interesting information. And on top of that, another interesting report that came out, which Netanyahu obviously denied, but there's a very high likelihood it's true, is at the start of the operation, so roughly 2 nights ago, Israel had a very open video to assassinate the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, but Trump was the one who said no. Trump's like, we don't need to assassinate political leadership because they're not targeting Americans yet.
Individual.
Thank you so much for $5, Ethan. Glad you guys are enjoying the stream.
Strike, but there were more than 70 ballistic missiles fired toward the population of Israel last night, some of them slamming into the ground below, killing at least 7 people. I do now want to bring in a former IDF spokesman, Major Doron Spielman, to talk about what we know about this ongoing operation to target Iranian nuclear sites and also to target the top IRGC officials who are ordering these ballistic missile attacks. Doron, thank you for joining us. What should the American people know about what is happening here in Israel?
Well, first of all, right behind me, Trey, this is the reason why we took out that surprise initiative, the preemptive strike against Iran. They've been saying for years, Trey, that this is what they're going to do. They're going to destroy and eliminate the Israeli.
Well, this is where what I was talking about earlier, right? Like, Iran has been talking a lot of smack for many years. And it's surprising how ill-prepared they were. Like, they don't have jets that can fight the Israeli jets. They don't have air defenses that can stop Israeli jets. Like, they don't have anything. Like, what's the point of talking so much if you're not prepared for the war? Because Iran has been like they were really banking it all on the nuclear weapons. And this is the reason, actually, Netanyahu, in his interview, he revealed today that Iran was getting like, they were working towards nuclear weapons. So for years, we have heard that Iran can get nuclear weapons in 2 weeks if they wanted to. What that really meant is, like, if Iran decides that they wanted nukes, the whole process would only take 2 weeks. Well, guess what? When the negotiations between Trump administration and Iran started, Israel got intel that Iran was using negotiations just to stall a decision, and they were already preparing to build nuclear weapons. So that's what Netanyahu is sharing today. But then again, we do want to keep that in mind, that any information out of Israel is going to be a little biased, but it wasn't just Israel. Even the UN Agency on Atomic Energy, which is IAEA, they said that Iran was not following the obligations they had when they signed the Treaty of Non-Nuclear Proliferation. So even that agency was saying that Iran could be working towards nuclear weapons. And this was the first time they said something like that in 20 years. So first time in 20 years they said that Iran's definitely doing something that's suspicious.
Israeli people. This is with a non-nuclear warhead. This entire building coming down, people trapped beneath the rubble. Can we imagine if Iran was able to have a nuke? There's no army bases here. This is the middle of a neighborhood. There's a kindergarten across the street. This is what Israel had to stop. And for the United States, that stands behind Israel, the same Iran that's threatening Israel threatens the United States. The United States right now has an option in front of them. They've helped us do this. However, the president has a choice to go down in history as protecting the United States from a nuclear Iran. That will decide what happens in the next few days.
My last question has to do with what comes next. We are seeing waves and waves of Iranian ballistic missiles slamming into cities across Israel. Women and children were killed last night. Israeli leaders are here today. as these rescue teams dig for survivors. What comes next? How does this end?
This is the same front like the pilots that are striking Iran. We knew when we struck Iran, which is a historic opportunity, they would respond. The Israeli public has been prepared for this. They know that our aerial defense is not 100%. I can hear them out front saying, long live the state of Israel. This is the front line, and these families are truly heroes. We will do everything we can to stop this, but as a nation, this is an existential moment. We will stay strong until this is taken care of, but we can't do it alone. We hit the first shot. The United States is going to have to take the final blow against this to knock Iran out of the picture and allow a new region to rebuild.
Okay, so I recently asked questions like I didn't understand why Iran and Israel are striking at night. I think Gary just gave us the answer. Night strikes, people are home, targets are being hit on either side. Iran is hitting people at home, Israel is hitting military when they're home. Yeah, the Israeli stuff is crazy because we got some interesting reports about how Israel started the operation. And apparently some of the military commanders and nuclear scientists, Israel was following for the past year. So at any time in the past year, they knew exactly where the scientist was, where the commander was. And that's exactly how they were able to kill around 25 people in just 15 minutes. They eliminated 20 IRGC commanders and 6 nuclear scientists in just 15 minutes span. And some of the assassinations were so precise that Israel targeted the specific room in the building where that person was, where the target was.
It's in our hands, Trey. The opportunity to have a world free of a nuclear Iran is up to the United States and Israel.
Doron, thank you very much. Major Doron Spielman, a former IDF spokesman. But just to recap, guys, what we know here, behind me in central Israel, there are rescue teams digging through the debris. They're using these chains to try and lift concrete blocks off of the foundation of this building where they believe people are trapped under the rubble. We do expect more Iranian ballistic missiles to target Israel tonight as the Israeli air campaign against the regime in Tehran continues. Guys.
So obviously we know that Israel is now striking back at Iran and specifically targeting some of those nuclear sites. Is that an indication that when they struck those nuclear sites the first time, that they did not actually get done what they wanted to get done?
Well, craziest story. I'm following the news right now. Israel is actually striking one of the other nuclear sites, the Four Dome one, as we're watching this. So that strike is going on right now. We'll get to that in just a second.
It is. And look, the 2 main nuclear sites that were hit, one is called Isfahan, and the other is called Natanz. These are facilities that are used to enrich uranium, part of the component needed to create a nuclear weapon. But the Fordow nuclear facility has not yet been hit, and it is believed many of the mechanisms created by the Iranian regime.
So this video, I think, was today afternoon. The Fordow one is getting targeted right now. As we speak, we're seeing some footage come out. I'll show you guys right now. So Fordow one is getting targeted right now. Israel has said they're not going to stop even if one nuclear facility is intact, the whole operation is a failure because the goal is to stop Iran from having nuclear weapons. So if you leave them with a little bit of ability to have nukes, you really didn't succeed. So this is the Fordow nuclear facility. We can see that something happened there because usually nuclear facilities are not on fire like this.
Regime are held deep underground. In the conversation that we have heard from officials here, even before this round of conflict, this war that erupted between Israel and Iran began, is that the Fordow facility is the one that the Israelis may not have the munition they need to target. But the bottom line here is that...
That's also the other part I saw interesting points. Israel knew for almost 15 years, since 2015, maybe even earlier, that Iran is building nuclear facilities deep underground. They're building them roughly 100 feet under the ground. That's around 100 meters under the ground. That's around 300 feet. So why didn't Israel build bunker busters? Which I don't get, because only U.S. has the bombs that could penetrate that deep in the nuclear facilities and destroy those. So Israel, that's what he's talking about right now. Israel doesn't have the abilities to destroy the nuclear facilities that are deep, deep underground. But as of now, we are seeing some footage that Israel is targeting them right here. Oh, come on. My computer is lagging. Oh, we just watched this. Did we not? Yeah, we just watched this. It's the same footage.
This is going to escalate before it is complete. I spoke yesterday with a senior Israeli intelligence official who said the Israelis hoped this could be over in a matter of days if they keep up the rate of this campaign. But given the fact that these Iranian ballistic missiles are still raining down on Israeli cities, we were here last night, you could hear the explosions echoing throughout this major population center. This is an indication that the Israelis are going to ramp up their strikes against the regime in Tehran. And just today, Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, saying that every single military target in the Iranian capital is on the table. Guys,
Trey, on that topic, is it your...
Now, this is exactly why Israel's been very vocal that they're not just going after nuclear and military targets, they're trying to destabilize the regime in Iran, and they're targeting a lot of stuff in Tehran. So if you're just joining in, we talked about this at the start of the stream, a lot of people are just fleeing Tehran. They don't want to be there because the damages is just insane. We have more footage we'll go over in just a second, but insane amount of damage happening in Tehran. It looks like a war zone, which again, they are at war, but it looks pretty bad.
Sense that the rate of strikes from Israel and the targets they're hitting is a plan they created before the first strike? Or is there any of this that looks like an immediate response to, well, you've killed more of our civilians than you should have, we're going to hit you here now? The escalation, if you want to call it that, the progression of of what they're targeting, does it seem like it's according to plan?
according to officials that we talked to, things are going better than planned for the Israeli army. And when we consider what's happened over the past 2 days, there still is an escalation ladder in all of this. The opening volley of strikes conducted by the Israelis not only went after nuclear facilities, it also targeted top nuclear scientists and the leader of the IRGC and many of his top commanders. Just yesterday, there was a gas field in Iran that was hit near to the southern city of Bandar Abbas.
Now, let's talk about the gas stuff, because that is going to have implications all over the world. Now, most of Iran's oil and gas, at least 90%, almost 90%, 80, 90%, I don't know the exact number, but vast majority of their oil and gas goes to China. So China is going to have a kind of an energy crisis if Iran cannot continue exporting. Now, Israel is going after refineries already, but for Iran, one of the most important island they have is the Karg Island, where a lot of the oil and gas is like refined and I think extracted too. So if Israel starts going after that island, it could cause like a world panic and raise the oil prices all over the world.
The Israelis waited to hit that facility, and an Israeli official told me they just did one strike, and that strike was meant to send a message to the Iranians that they can start targeting energy infrastructure belonging to the regime. And that is likely what we are going to see in the hours and days ahead. The Israelis striking more energy and military targets in Iran, and the Iranians targeting major cities like Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, and Haifa in the north. Just last night, one of those barrages rained down on Haifa. A lot of the Israeli energy infrastructure is located there.
Trey, you spoke
And guys,
about...
if I can just stay with you here for a moment, I want to just show you, because these crews, now that they moved this large block, they are now digging once again, trying to get to some of the people that are trapped under the rubble. I do again.
So shower rainwater just asked, can bunker busters be deployed from airplanes that the IDF has? So this is where it's interesting. Based on public knowledge, we know that Israel cannot target this Fordo nuclear site. It's in the mountains and it's very deep inside. It's buried in the mountains, and on top of that, it's deep underground. But based on this footage and some other footage that are floating online, these just came out like, let's look at it. At 7 p.m. roughly, it's 7:20 right now. So it just came out 20 minutes ago. So it seems like Israel is targeting this facility, but for the longest time, everyone believed that Israel cannot attack this without U.S. help. Only the B-2s had enough capabilities to carry the bunker busters that could penetrate deep inside this facility. So I'm pretty sure the U.S. is not involved, so maybe Israel just figured out a way. Now, of course, if Israel just had spies go inside and start blowing stuff up, that would be a different case. But we don't know how exactly Israel is targeting this, but based on the footage, it does seem like there's some damage going on at this facility. And the facility is called Fordo. And let me see if I can quickly pull up the map for you guys. Iran nuclear facilities map right here. It's right here. So hopefully you guys see this. So right here, Fordo is close to Iran, and the two facility Israel has already targeted is Natanz and Esfahan. They have targeted these before today. So yesterday and the day before, they were targeting these two facilities. Fordo, they just started targeting like 20 minutes ago. Now, we don't know how they're doing it, like what they're using, what jets, what munition, we don't know.
And just want to tell you the story of this son who is waiting just a block away from.
So F-35s, I'm pretty sure they can carry bunker busters, but then again, these facilities, they're like 300 feet under the ground. They cannot carry bunker busters that are strong enough to go that deep. That's what everyone was speculating, that they don't have the abilities. Only B-2s have the ability to go after these facilities, and no one in the world has B-2s except the US. So I don't think US is involved. Maybe Israel figured out some way to attack the facilities.
Where we're standing, and when we arrived, he was sitting in a wheelchair, dressed in a hospital gown, and he was staring into the distance, and it looked like his girlfriend or his wife was sitting next to him, holding his hand. And a family friend came up to our crew, and we talked to him, and he said, our friend is trapped under the rubble, and he was talking about the father of this man. And he said he's 50 years old, his name's Meir. And
so yeah, what the yellow one said, some username in the chat, Israel did ask the US to get involved, but then again, there was a meeting at Pentagon and US said they're not going to get involved. American lives haven't been hurt, they're not going to get involved. And Trump has been actually pretty vocal, so I have it somewhere right here. Trump has been pretty vocal that US had nothing to do with the attack on Iran tonight. If we were attacked in any way, shape, or form by Iran, the full strength and the might of the US armed forces will come down on Iran at the levels never seen before. However, we can easily get a deal done between Iran and Israel and end this bloody conflict. So US has not been involved. They've been pretty vocal about not being involved too.
He was a kind man who lived in this building, but he went out of the shelter to get his phone, and that's when the blast happened. His son was injured again, taken to a local hospital, and the son, although he was wounded, demanded that this team of doctors and nurses take him back to the blast site just hours after, still in his hospital gown and wheelchair, to wait for his father to be pulled from the rubble. This gives you a sense of the Israeli people, and I think also the field.
I mean, again, U.S. is involved, Rishabh. I see your message. U.S. is involved in defensive efforts, so they're taking down missiles that Iran is shooting towards Israel, but they're not involved in offensive measures. They're not helping Israel go inside Iran and attack Iranian positions.
Here, the Israelis understand these are going to be difficult days ahead, but they're not giving up, and they're not giving up hope. And again, at this moment, as we are talking to you here, they truly are hoping for a miracle. They're hoping that Meir, that father, is pulled from the debris behind me. We know that many people were unfortunately killed at this location. But again, they believe that there are still at least 2 people still alive, trapped under this debris. And they're hoping for an outcome that could bring them home, get them to a hospital, and reunite them with their loved ones.
Jonas asks, what do you think the odds are we get a deal done in this situation? Well, based on the comments Trump has made, I don't think we're going to have any deal, at least in the next 48 hours. Maybe we'll have a deal Tuesday, Wednesday. Let's see. We don't know. But today, Trump did call Putin. Today or yesterday, I think. I'm not sure. But today, we got the news that Trump had a call with Putin. Maybe Russia will get involved to bring a deal together. Let's see. And it's also kind of comical how Russia is saying what Israel is doing is not fair. They just attacked Iran for no reason. And then Russia is doing the same thing in Ukraine. They're attacking civilians. Russia is basically doing what Iran is doing in Israel, where Russia is just attacking civilians because they cannot move the front lines.
Loved ones. Guys.
Trey, I've got a couple questions for you. One, you had a really interesting interview with a man earlier. He seemed really determined. This is our moment of opportunity to take out these nuclear sites that are threatening Israel. Is that the sentiment that you're feeling sort of I know you're talking to lots of people. Is that the overwhelming sentiment there? Now is the time we're willing to put up with this kind of devastation, this kind of danger in order to take advantage of this opportunity?
Yeah, look, we've been talking to sources across the region. There's a bird that he just pulled out from there. He just pulled a pigeon.
Wow.
That was alive
That's crazy. Pigeon was alive inside the rubble.
Under the rubble. We've been talking with everyone involved here. We have talked with Israeli officials. We've talked with Qatari officials. We've talked with other Gulf officials. We've talked with the Iranians, gotten statements from the regime, trying to piece together this story. And I can tell you that from an Israeli perspective, they want this to be complete. The source that I talked to yesterday said they don't want to be in the same position 2 years from now.
Yeah.
And
Well, yeah, World 22, that's actually true. But then again, this is Israel claiming it. So we have to keep that in mind. There will be some bias whenever Netanyahu says something or any Israeli leader. But Netanyahu is saying that Trump was playing Iran along. Trump was purposefully saying publicly that Israel should not attack. So that way Iran believes that there's no attack coming. And that way the Israeli attack has more of like success, more rate of success. And in fact, on the first night, we saw some comments from like anonymous Israeli officials. Even Israel and IDF and Mossad, they were all shocked at how successfully everything went. They were not expecting the kind of success that they actually played out because Iran was truly just not prepared. Even the supreme leader, he publicly said, or not publicly, there's a quote in New York Times where supreme leader was shocked. He's like, how can Israel come into Iran and destroy everything and we cannot do anything? Supreme leader was asking his own commanders. Ethan, thank you so much for $10. We now have been blessed by good luck pigeon. Yeah, that was crazy that the pigeon they saved from the rubble. I'm surprised. I wonder how long pigeons can survive.
they understand that there is close coordination with the Americans. And when I asked for specifics, this intelligence official did not want to go into details of how the Americans are coordinating with the Israelis. This official confirmed the Americans are helping to shoot down these incoming ballistic missiles. But as for intelligence sharing or things like that, the source paused and he said, I just want to tell you, we feel it. We've never been closer with our American counterparts. They are our friends. They are not our colleagues. They are our friends. And that is the sentiment we hear among Israeli officials and the Israeli people, because this is an
Yeah, Francis said, we definitely need a statement from the pigeon. Like after the fact, that would be cool.
unprecedented moment for Israel. Again, we have been reporting here on the ground for nearly 7 years. We have seen rocket attacks from Hamas and Islamic Jihad in Gaza, precision-guided missiles coming from Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, ballistic missiles from the Houthis in Yemen, Iran-backed Iraqi and Syrian Shia militias launching drones and missiles at this country. What we are seeing today, Israel has never faced. And Israeli officials tell us they are fighting for their survival.
Trey,
Guys, back to you.
Trey, you mentioned that there's an emphasis on taking out the energy infrastructure. You mentioned many of the sites that they hit. This morning I read that there was an oil field that was hit, but that oil field is co-owned by Iran and Qatar. What kind of worries are there, or anything you can see as far as the possibility that this now could expand?
This is a really great question, and I also have some reporting on this. And I just want to think through our sourcing on this. This was someone, an official familiar with this oil field and this gas field. You raise an important point. This is a shared gas field. It's the largest field in the world. And on the Iranian side, it starts near to the city of Bandar Abbas in the south. But it goes over, and the Qataris and the Americans are invested in the other side of the gas field. And I spoke with a source who described the Israeli strike against that as a dangerous escalation, because there is concern that if ultimately that gas field is targeted and the Iranians start to respond in the region, that American interests and assets could be hit or affected. And it could lead to an increase in energy prices. It could lead to American forces or embassies in the region coming under attack. And so there are certainly officials in this part of the world that are concerned about the location of these strikes. But the bottom line here is that the Israelis understand the next step up on the escalation ladder for them is going after the energy infrastructure in Iran, the very infrastructure that the regime uses to fund their ballistic missile program that they then use to fire at Israeli cities like the one that we're in central Israel and hit buildings like the one behind me. And so it's all connected. And the region is watching very closely to see what comes next. The question here is, will there be a point that the Iranians throw in the towel and say, look, they're not going to win because the Israelis have that American support, and if it continues to be this bad, the Israelis are going to continue looking to the United States for help. We don't know what comes next. All we know is that according to Israeli officials, this country is bracing for days of intense ballistic missile barrages. We have seen 6 barrages so far, more than 200 missiles streaming through the skies of this country. Last night, as they were targeting the northern city of Haifa, we stood.
So the only way this war does expand, like not into a world war, but the only way other nations get involved is oil. There are a lot of nations who are interconnected because of oil. Now, we already talked about Strait of Hormuz. Where is Strait of Hormuz? Did I close it? But we already talked about Strait of Hormuz. Let me see if I can pull that up again. It's one of the most important straits. I think, let me see, I just saw it. Someone text me this. Give me one sec. It's like 80% of the world oil goes through there. oh, more than a fifth of entire world's oil supply every single day passes through Strait of Hormuz. So anything Israel does to the Iranian oil supply can push Iran to target the strait or blockade the strait. And we know that Iranian Navy doesn't need to be strong enough to blockade the strait. All they need to do is attack 1-2 tankers, and the companies will just stop going there. That's what we saw it happen in the Red Sea. Houthis don't have a navy that can blockade the Red Sea. But all they had to do was just target a few ships, and the whole commercial shipping through the Red Sea, through the Suez Canal, just shut down overnight. So Iran could do something like that in the Strait of Hormuz if they want to. But they know if they do something like that, it will become a lot bigger than just like a war between Israel and Iran. And Israel doesn't have allies. Iran doesn't have allies like Israel has. Now, Iran did sign a strategic partnership with Russia at the start of this year, but Russia is nowhere to be seen. In fact, the Russian air defenses are basically useless in Iran. Now, Iran provides a lot of oil to China, but I doubt China is willing to go to war for Iran just over the oil. But on the other side, U.S. will get involved if Iran shuts off Strait of Hormuz. We have close partnership with Saudi Arabia. We have close partnership with Israel. So all these countries would want us to get involved if the oil is shut off from Strait of Hormuz.
On a balcony, and we could see as they were slipping past missile defense systems, others being intercepted in the skies above. And then just about 30 minutes later, another barrage targeting the center part of Israel, one of those missiles slipping past the Arrow defense system and the Patriot system that is also deployed in this country and slamming into this building, killing at least one child, killing civilians that were here asleep in their beds. Some of them rushed to bomb shelters. Others couldn't make it in time. And the aftermath, guys, you see is behind me as these crews are picking up brick by brick, debris by debris, concrete block by concrete block, hoping for a miracle here in the center part of Israel, understanding that there still could be survivors. The father of that man, Ofek, that we talked to earlier, still trapped under the rubble, and they are hoping for a miracle. Guys, back to you.
Trey, I want to go back real quick. You said you were speaking to an official, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I'm going to try to remember them precisely. Said, we feel it. We're closer with Americans than we've ever been. And then you said that he said these are our allies, our friends, not our colleagues. Did you get any sense that that was directed towards that's how it is now under this administration as opposed to perhaps the last 4 years, or just because of the seriousness of the situation?
I don't want to get into the politics of it, just
Fair
given
enough.
the fact that it's an incredibly complex story. But I'll say right now, according to the sources that we have talked to, they feel the relationship between the United States and Israel is closer than ever. And part of that relationship is a relationship of necessity. I mean, there are more than 100.
I mean, Dean, this is not a green screen. You can see people moving in the background. They just pulled out a pigeon from the rubble. They're trying to save people. I doubt this is a green screen in any way.
100,000 American citizens in this country. This is the key ally of the United States. And President Trump has been very clear. He gave the Iranians a 60-day window to come to the negotiating table. A 6th round of talks was scheduled in Oman. It was supposed to take place today. Of course, those are canceled now. But the bottom line here is that there were diplomatic efforts and they didn't succeed. And as a result, Israel went after Iran's nuclear facilities. They were concerned that the country was pursuing a weapon. They targeted not only nuclear scientists, but also members from Iran's IRGC. And Iran responded with waves of ballistic missiles. And the conclusion to this is that the days ahead are going to be very difficult for Israel. And sources tell us they expect more casualties. They expect more.
Oh, yeah, good point, CC. The other part, how this affects the Ukraine conflict is Russia is actually really dependent on Iran for the drones. And on top of that, they do get some ballistic missiles from Iran too. So I'm sure Russia doesn't need help in the missile department, but the drones are very important. Now, Russia does have factories in Russia now that Iran helps produce the same drones. So it's gonna basically, it's not gonna hurt as bad for Russia, but definitely gonna be beneficial for Ukraine on the front lines now that Iran's probably out of that war, not involved there anymore. But yeah, we'll move on. We have a lot more news. And anyone just joining in, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button down below so you can catch the future streams. And it really does help us out in the algorithm. So this is something we looked at it already. These are the attacks just going on right now. So this is the Fordome nuclear site. These are the deep sites that people speculated Israel cannot attack without U.S. help. But from the footage, we can see that it's definitely being attacked. We don't know how Israel's doing it, but they're doing it somehow. also mod David's. The biggest problem is like the ballistic missiles travel very fast. Like 10 minutes, maybe sometimes even 8 minutes to travel from Iran to Israel. They go into the space and they come down really fast too, so air defenses have a hard time stopping them. On top of that, think about it. If you live in a building where the bomb shelters are not close by, sometimes 8 minutes, you can't make it to bomb shelters even if you get a warning ahead of time. So that's one of the big issues. Now, this is the last night's Tel Aviv attack, and the reason I want to just show you guys this clip is it shows like an aerial view of the damage. Ballistic missiles are truly devastating. Even if one of them gets through, they wipe out like a whole block. So huge damage if even just a small number of ballistic missiles go through. And every time Iran is attacking, they're sending in like 30, 40, 50, sometimes 100 ballistic missiles. So even though the Israeli air defenses and even the US air defenses are very, very successful, nothing's 100%, especially when it comes to attacking missiles that are coming from space, and especially when it's so many of them. So some of them always get through.
And what would normally look like a scene out of the Gaza Strip.
Like, look how much damage it was. That's actually insane.
Residents in Israel were seen inspecting the damage of an Iranian airstrike. On Sunday morning, the mayor of Bat Yam, the city that was hit, said at least 4 people were killed and more than 100 were wounded. Several others were unaccounted for. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited the site as well.
Think about what would happen if Iran had nuclear weapons to land on Israeli cities. Think about what would happen if Iran had 20,000 such missiles. Not one, 20,000 of them in an existential threat to Israel.
And he said that Iran would, quote, pay a very heavy price for murdering innocent civilians. Israeli forces say they have now gained aerial superiority from West Iran to Tehran, which means Israel's fighter jets have full control of the airspace in these areas, something very critical to winning a war. Israel's chief of the general staff explained.
Over the past 24 hours, we completed an aerial route to Tehran and conducted an aerial breaching battle. Israeli Air Force pilots are flying at great risk to their lives, hundreds of kilometers away from Israel, striking hundreds of different targets with precision.
And so far, Israel said they have struck over 250 targets in Iran, including the headquarters of Iran's nuclear project. Israel also released footage of their fighter pilots shooting down Iranian drones. Meanwhile, Iran's foreign minister said on Sunday that Iran did not want this war.
We were focused on implementing diplomacy regarding our nuclear program. However, this violation was forced upon us. This defense is in response to the violation. Therefore, if the violation stops, our reaction will naturally stop too.
In an interview on ABC News, President Trump said that it's possible for the United States military to get involved in this war, but he said the U.S. is not involved at this time. Jason Perry, NTD News.
Well, Trump said we could get involved, but then again, that doesn't mean it. That doesn't mean we're doing anything right now. Now, these are some of the damages of the Israeli strikes in Tehran. Now, Israel has said they're going to go after pretty much every single military outpost in the Tehran city, and that's why so many people are fleeing, as we saw at the start of the clip. But here's some damages. Yes, Kev, we are funding the Iron Dome. I mean, we gave some aid to help with the Iron Dome, but then again, Iron Dome is not useful against ballistic missiles. They're really useful against the rockets that Hamas and Hezbollah have, but Israel has other defenses for ballistic missiles. But Iran just has so many ballistic missiles that some of them always get through. Good quality, but these are the scenes from Tehran. Yeah, Matthew, Israel did ask U.S. to help with the offensive strikes, but U.S. denied the request. U.S. is not involved in any way offensively. Only way we are involved is just taking down the missiles that Iran is sending towards Israel. Yeah, exactly. Trump does talk a lot. So he just said if US wanted to get involved, they could. Now, Trump also sent out this warning that we just looked at. Where is this? That Iran should not attack US forces because that's a surefire way for US to get involved if Iran is attacking US bases and US soldiers in the Middle East. And this is downtown Tehran. It does look like a war zone if you guys want to judge it. It is pretty grim. Oh, Philip, by the way, guys, our Twitter Business Basics, we've been publishing almost a lot more news over there, so definitely go check it out. I'll link it right now. Or I guess X, not Twitter. But this looks, yeah, this does not look good. Here's the picture. Now we go on to some of the strikes that happened today. Iran has launched roughly 7 waves. I think the 7th one came today. In fact, when we were live yesterday, we were watching the 6th wave live. So we were able to see the Israeli defense shoot down everything. And also we saw one impact, and it was truly scary. Yesterday we saw it. It comes really fast. Because in my mind, I always had it like, oh, I can look at where the missile is going and run away. That was a very dumb thinking, because I saw how fast missiles come. I didn't think any human can run away from the impact.
Let's get to our top story. The IDF confirms new
My bad.
strikes in Tehran this morning.
As Israeli crews are searching for survivors in the rubble after deadly Iranian missiles killed 10 people and injure hundreds others.
Alex Hogan is live on the ground near Tel Aviv with the very latest. Alex, good morning.
Good morning. We're getting some breaking news right now. An alert has gone out to the entire country here.
Kev, so yeah, there were some drones attacking US bases. Those were probably from Iranian proxies, but I doubt that was something like the Iranian leadership approved, because a lot of these proxies like Hamas, Hezbollah, they make their own decisions, and all of them pretty much hate Israel and US, so they always send in drones. 3 drones attacked a US base, but that's something that has been going on for weeks. Like, that happens very regularly, even before the Israeli action started, so I don't think US is going to get involved because of that. And then again, US soldiers were not hurt. The drones were easily taken care of, so unless the US soldiers start getting hurt, I don't think the US is going to get involved.
Here in Israel, telling people they need to get.
Yeah, YF, 90% of missiles do get intercepted. But then again, even if one gets through, these are hitting populated areas, Tel Aviv downtown, and one missile has the ability to wipe out a whole block. So a lot of damage, even if only one get through.
Close to a shelter. If sirens do go off, we're going to move into one of these buildings and take shelter, as there is the belief that there is likely an incoming attack. This is after we have seen widespread devastation in this neighborhood. This is Bat Yam in the outskirts of Tel Aviv, where one building behind me, a residential building, a large apartment building, was the scene of a direct hit. But as a result, all of the surrounding homes, all of the surrounding residential and apartment buildings have been completely destroyed, with the windows broken, the doors mangled, the roofs either partially or fully blown off as a result of this direct hit. This was the scene overnight of some of these impacts that we saw of Iranian missiles, some of which were able to breach Israel's air defense systems and create direct hits like this. We are now also learning of the increased number of dead. As many as 11 people have died in overnight strikes. That's because I'll show you this footage here, some of the drone footage of the area of where I'm standing. Search and rescue teams have been going through the area, combing through the rubble, and have just uncovered another body, another grim part of the news of the dead that we have learned of in recent days. Children are among the dead here in Israel. And we talked with the international spokesperson of the police, who says they had to use drones, canines, to comb through this area and search for survivors. Take a listen.
Yeah, so below, the iron beam is active, but then again, the beam needs to lock into a target and stay on it for a few seconds. At the speed the ballistic missiles travel, the beam is really not that useful against the ballistic missiles. They're useful against rockets, maybe. I'm not really sure, but it's active, but it's like, it doesn't make a difference in the ballistic missile strikes that Iran is carrying out.
What happens next? What happens tonight? Are you preparing to see, unfortunately, attacks and scenes just like this tomorrow morning again?
Well, I can't see the future, but I can tell you that the Israel police is prepared in the event that another barrage of rockets targets our civilian communities. Like I told you, we're on high alert, but we've also recruited 7 battalions, reserve battalions of our border police to help reinforce our units that are on the ground so that we can be in all areas of Israel. And if there's a rocket strike, missile strike to a certain residential community, we can get there as fast as possible. Time is of the essence when it comes to these things. We want to get people medically evacuated as fast as possible, provide service to anybody that may be trapped, and that's what we're going to continue doing.
So we've seen a massive police presence here throughout the morning. Medics, again, going through this area door to door. We are seeing all of them right now evacuating this area, getting themselves to shelter, something we are going to do as well if those sirens do sound off here in Tel Aviv, meaning that the city would once again be under attack. And it would be something that we have not seen in recent days. Typically.
Okay, after this, we'll go through more news. Actually, one of the biggest news that came out today is Israel had the opportunity to assassinate the supreme leader, but it was Trump who stepped in and said Israel should not do that. So we'll cover that. We have more details, and then we'll get to the Netanyahu interview. That was definitely a lot of details in that interview that's interesting.
These Iranian missile and drone strikes.
Philip, I don't know if anything is actively happening right now, but 20 minutes ago, or maybe 40 minutes ago now, Israel was targeting the Fordam nuclear base. So that strike was going on as we were watching something else, so we quickly switched to that. But aside of that, I don't think any strikes or missile attacks are happening as of now.
Strikes have been happening at night, but for those sirens to take place during the day, it shows just once again the changing experience that Israelis are living through amid this escalation here in the Middle East. Back to you.
Thank you, Alex. So obviously, you know, what we're looking at behind you is evidence that the Iron Dome did not get all the missiles that were that were incoming for Israel, and it's not the only. Those are not the only. That's not the only missile that sort of got past the Iron Dome. What is the, you know, and obviously you have Israel, you have the United States, but there are also other countries that are trying to intercept these missiles. They have a long way to go from Iran. It's about 1,000 miles. They're going over Jordan. They're going over Saudi Arabia. And we know that those two countries are trying to help shoot down some of these missiles. What other efforts are?
Oh, so Will's saying that the strike on this nuclear facility wasn't actually on the facility. It was just close to that. Yeah, so a lot of people were speculating before the strikes that Israel doesn't have the munition to actually target those facilities in Fordam because they are 300 feet deep, probably a little bit more than that, and they need the B-2s to do that. But then again, that was the expert consensus. Maybe Israel has something the public doesn't know about.
What other countries in the region are working to help shoot down some of these missiles that are incoming to Israel?
Oh, we're getting some sirens right now. We're going to move ourselves to shelter. We're going to follow you, but you can stay with us as we continue to move. So to answer your question, the air defense systems here in Israel, it's not made up just of the Iron Dome. We also have a David Sling as well as the Arrow, all of which have different capabilities. Careful here as we move down on these stairs. So we're going to move with everyone into the shelter, into the closest shelter that we can find. As a result, these sirens mean that Tel Aviv is one of the cities that the IDF believes could be the center of this next incoming attack. So,
Guy, $5. Why are mods relieving factual statements? We don't have mods. We have one viewer who's just here. We actually don't have mods, but it's probably just YouTube. Like YouTube has an automatic system that removes some comments. Your comment was about Israel putting anti-air in civilian areas. Yeah, I have seen that thing where many people are calling Israel like using human shield, but this is where it's different. The air defenses in civilian areas actually kind of makes sense because you want to protect the civilians. So air defenses are actually like a defensive weapon. They are not offensive weapons where, you know, like they're hiding that in the civilian population. They're putting defensive weapons in the civilian population because you want to protect your population. So you have to put the air defenses near where people live.
this appears to be a parking garage, one of the types of areas that would work well because it's insulated with concrete. This is the kind of area, again, similar to a stairwell or a bomb shelter, is the kind of place that people will need to stay until we get the all clear.
Alex, I'm not sure if you can still hear us very well, but just so we understand, that siren going off, does that mean something is imminent, that something has been spotted in the air?
I lost you there for a second. I think I have you back. If you could just repeat that question for me.
That alarm going off, does that mean that something is imminently incoming, that there's an active attack?
Yes, the initial warning that we got indicated, it went off to the entire country. It indicated that there could be an incoming attack that could interfere with the Israeli air defenses. Sorry, I'm getting some interference in my ear. The first alert that we got notified everyone across the country to get close to a shelter, and if the sirens did go off in their city, that would mean that their city potentially could be under attack. So the fact that we just heard those sirens and the fact that we're seeing even soldiers come here to take shelter means that all of Israelis, all of the foreigners, all of the tourists that are in Tel Aviv right now need to be taking shelter. We're also getting a new alert on our phones. All of the cell phones that people might have been going off, so you can take a look at that. Just alerting people, take a shelter. Obviously, this is in Hebrew, but alerting people to get to shelter as quickly as possible. And what we've seen in the past when we've been in this type of situation, we'll wait about 30 minutes to an hour before you get the all clear. So it can take a long.
So one thing that was happening right now, like when we started streaming, I don't know how long we've been live, almost an hour, was a lot of the Israeli citizens were sent to the bomb shelters, but Israel was able to stop all the missiles. But they still said everyone should just spend the night in the shelter. I think it's nighttime in Israel, maybe early morning. I'm not 100% sure. Let me check. What's the time in Israel? Yeah, it's 3 a.m. So yeah, it's definitely nighttime, and the government recommended to a lot of people that they should just spend the night in bomb shelters.
Long time, but in my experience, when we've been here in bunkers like this, the explosions are so loud it'll shake the walls. That's what we experienced overnight. So we're getting moved a little deeper into this bomb shelter. I might lose you. I'm not sure if
Yep.
Yeah, I think we lost.
Incredible footage right there.
But let's talk about the bigger news that came out. Now, this news came out right before Netanyahu went live for an exclusive interview on Fox News. So we'll get to that interview in just a second because we have a lot of interesting details there that he shared. But one thing that this report came out, that Trump vetoed the Israeli plan to kill the Iran supreme leader. Netanyahu denied this on the interview, which is kind of expected, right? You're not going to say, yes, we had an opportunity to kill him. But we have a lot more details about this report, so it does seem that it's a pretty accurate and true report. Now, how's CCP handling what happens in Iran? So we're not sure. CCP has made statements about like what Israel is doing. They should definitely de-escalate the situation and stuff like that. But China does get a lot of oil from Iran. So that's one way China could get involved if the oil flow is affected. But as of now, I don't think China has sent anything offensively to help Iran. As of now, at least. Maybe that will change in the future. You never know. But this is the comment Trump made. Maybe you guys can see it. I'll zoom in a little. Trump made when he denied Israel's request to take out the supreme leader. He basically said, have the Iranians killed an American yet? No. Until they do, we're not even talking about going after the political leadership. This is the statement Trump made when he said, we're not taking out the Iranian leadership. But after this, a lot of interesting details came out relating to this operation. So a U.S. official shared with a journalist that Israel had an operational window to assassinate the Iran supreme leader. But Trump made it clear he was not in, like he basically denied the request, like they should not carry that out. And since then, this quote came out. Since the operation commenced, the Israeli had an opportunity to kill the supreme leader. We communicated to Israeli that President Trump is opposed to that. The Iranians haven't killed an American, and discussion of killing political leadership should not be on the table. Now, this is where I had a funny clip. I don't know where it is. But basically, a lot of the people U.S. was negotiating the nuclear deal with, they're not coming back because Israel took out a lot of the IRGC leadership who were part of the negotiations, and Trump had a funny comment relating to that. But I guess we'll get to that later. Now, this is another news. I know a lot of you guys are wondering if the U.S. troops are under attack. They're really not, but there was an attack on a U.S. base. Nothing happened. The drones were taken down, but there was an attack, so I wanted to report it. 3 drones were launched towards a U.S. base housing U.S. forces in Iraq following Israel's strike on Iran. But The drones were shot down. No group claimed responsibility for the attack. A network of powerful Iran-backed militia in Iraq has remained mostly quiet amid the escalating Israel-Iran conflict. In the past, the militias had periodically attacked U.S. bases in Iraq and Syria in retaliation for Washington's support for Israel in its war against Iran-allied Hamas. What is next? What is next? Well, this is completely unrelated to the attack that was carried out. Because again, this drone attack that happened on the US base, that's a very common occurrence in Iraq and Syria. So this is nothing out of the ordinary. So US is not going to get involved because of this. If something does happen that's not common, that's when I think the US will get involved for sure. But this is the message Trump sent to Iran today. We covered this already one time, but I'll read it again for anyone who's just joined. The US had nothing to do with the attack in Iran tonight. If we are attacked in any way, shape, or form by Iran, the full strength and might of the U.S. armed forces will come down on you at the levels never seen before. However, we can easily get a deal done between Iran and Israel. And as we were live, I think President Trump did a press conference on the White House lawn. So let me pull that up right here. Yeah, President Trump did a press conference on the White House lawn, and this is what he said relating to all this.
Can you give us a sense of what you're doing to try to de-escalate the situation between Iran and Israel?
What is when it will be? Because Israel is saying in a week they should be able to finish all the objectives they had. So is the deal going to be after that or before that? Oh, I found the clip of President Trump. So here's Trump talking about Iranian people who were involved in the negotiations. And these are really the hardliners. So these were the Iranian officials who did not want to stop the uranium enriching. They wanted Iran to move forward towards a nuclear bomb. And this is what Trump said.
And then he said they, meaning Iran, should now come to the table to make a deal before it's too late. And then he said something really noteworthy. He said, the people I was dealing with are dead, the hardliners, to which I just wanted to underscore. So what you're saying is Israel has now killed the people who you were dealing with. And he said very sarcastically, they didn't die of the flu. They didn't die of COVID.
That's crazy. That's coming from the president, but it's true. It's true. A lot of the people who did not want Iran to stop the nuclear enrichment, they're not there anymore. So I think the people who are still alive got the message. And they need to negotiate a peace where Iran doesn't get nuclear weapons. Otherwise, they know what's going to happen to them. Another shocking thing that came out, Iranian allies are nowhere to be seen. Now, Russia signed a strategic deal with Iran that's supposed to guarantee each other's safety. It's easier to sign those kind of things. They make a huge news PR thing out of it. They push it. All the pro-Russian accounts start pushing it. Oh my God, everyone's teaming up against the United States. That's what's happening because we're supporting Ukraine. Russia is now teaming up with North Korea, with China, with Iran. But when the time comes to fulfill the promises, Russia is nowhere to be seen. And same with Hezbollah. Hezbollah just said they're not interested in fighting. The so-called axis of resistance no longer truly exist. The axis of resistance when asked to resist, no one to be found. Good chance to make a deal, but James, I think Trump means with Iran. Whoever survives, basically, in Iran. Let's see who survives. But here's Netanyahu's statement he made just yesterday, where he's talking about a lot of people just fleeing the country. I have a statement in English. I'll find that in a sec. What else we got? Oh, another shocking part, actually. This is in Iranian too, so I'm trusting the translation. But Pakistan is getting involved. For those of you who don't know, Pakistan is the only Islamic country in the world who has nuclear weapons. And this is Pakistan's warning to Israel. Pakistan has told Iran that if Israel drops a nuclear bomb in Tehran, we will drop a nuclear bomb on Israel. Now, it's important to remember when Pakistan was getting the nuclear bomb, I think this was in 1998 or 2000, something like that. They called it the Islam bomb. So Pakistan was seeing this bomb as like every country that doesn't have a bomb, they will protect every country using this bomb, basically. It was insane. But Tehran, let me see what else. Let's watch the Netanyahu interview real quick.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Washington for a special edition of Special Report. I'm Brett Baer. Coming up in a few minutes, my world exclusive live interview with Israeli.
This is not World War III right now. Because again, a lot of countries love talking. Pakistan loves to send the message that they would use the nuclear bomb if Iran is nuked. But in reality, Israel's never going to use nuclear weapons on Iran. They don't need to. They're destroying Iran already. And the second thing is, just look at Russia. It's a lot easier to make the promise than actually deliver on it. Pakistan's never going to use nuclear weapons.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, the first since the Israeli strikes on Iran began. But first, this afternoon, a Fox News alert, the growing conflict in the Middle East, Israel launching a third day of airstrikes across Iran, Israeli officials advising Iranians to evacuate arms factories and threatening to use even greater force. Iran saying 128 people have been killed, 900 wounded so far. The Islamic Republic responding with missile attacks of its own, which have killed 13 people, wounding more than 360. Iran's foreign minister saying today his country will...
Well, someone's saying there are reports that Pakistan is supporting Iran behind the scenes. Like, how can Pakistan really support Iran with weapons? Like, Iran really doesn't have... They cannot transfer missiles. We'll know that. U.S. has enough intelligence, enough assets in Pakistan that U.S. will find out if Pakistan is giving missiles to Iran. That's the only true way I can see them helping. They're not transferring their jets, nothing like that.
Will stop its attacks if Israel stops theirs. Let's get...
No, yeah, we should use more CNN and everything too. But this is like exclusive interviews Fox had, so that's why we're watching it here. And another reason we use Fox so much is Trey Yingst. That's a Fox contributor. He's very good, and he covers Middle East a lot.
The latest now from Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yingst, live in Tel Aviv. Good afternoon, Trey.
Where's the interview?
Brett, good afternoon. Since the conflict began, Iran has launched more than 250 ballistic missiles into Israel. Overnight, 11 people were killed when some of those missiles slipped past air defense systems, slamming into residential areas. Hundreds more have been wounded. When we arrived at one impact site this morning, rescue crews were combing through the rubble of an apartment building in central Israel looking for survivors. One man in his 50s named Meir was still trapped as his son, who had been wounded in the attack, waited to learn the fate of his father. Right now, rescue workers are digging through the debris following that Iranian ballistic missile attack that targeted central Israel. They are looking for survivors who are trapped under the rubble, including Meir, that can support for Israel during the conflict. Now, in conversations with Israeli sources, they are drawing a stark contrast in what is happening here. The Israelis are going after military and nuclear sites. The Iranians are firing ballistic missiles toward Israeli civilians. Brett.
Trey Yingst in Tel Aviv. Trey, thank you. Joining us now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Mr. Prime Minister, welcome back to Special Report.
So this is the first interview he did today, I think today afternoon, 12 o'clock Eastern, since the operation started, and some interesting details.
Thank you. Good to be with you, Brett.
First of all, let me start at the beginning. Why did you launch this operation now?
Because we were facing an imminent threat, a dual existential threat. One, the threat of Iran rushing to weaponize their enriched uranium to make atomic bombs with a specific and declared intent to destroy us. Second, a rush to increase their ballistic missile arsenal into the capacity that they would have 3,600 weapons a year, new weapons, within 3 years, 10,000 ballistic missiles, each one weighing a ton, coming in at Mach 6, right into our cities, as you saw today. And then in 6 years, 20,000. That's no country can sustain that, and certainly not a country the size of Israel. So we had to act. It was the 12th hour. We did act to save ourselves, but also, I think, to not only protect ourselves, but protect the world from this incendiary regime. We can't have the world's most dangerous regime have the world's most dangerous weapons. We're protecting ourselves, but by doing so, we're protecting many others.
You know, I just want to press you on the intel on the nuclear part. Less than 2 months ago, the new director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, testified on Capitol Hill, saying that everything had been suspended since 2003 and had not restarted, that the nuclear program had not been restarted by the Iranians. So did something change from end of March until this week? Was the U.S. intel wrong?
The intel we got and we shared with the United States was absolutely clear. Was absolutely clear that they were working in a secret plan to weaponize the uranium. They were marching very quickly. They would achieve a test device and possibly an initial device within months and certainly less than a year. That was the intel we shared with the United States. I think we have excellent intel in Iran. I think we've proven that. And that is something that we couldn't.
I mean, the way they took out so many people on the first night, I'm pretty sure they have insane amount of spies in Iran. Iran did announce today they caught 2 Mossad spies. They arrested them with a lot of drones and explosives, but I don't think we can doubt that Israel has a lot of spies. Yep, this is live Star Wars.
Possibly accept.
The number below my thing is the subscriber count for the channel. So if you haven't subscribed, be sure to hit the subscribe button.
Whether it would be 6 months or 12 months or 13 months is immaterial. Once they go that route, it's too late. And we will not have a second Holocaust, a nuclear Holocaust. We already had one in the previous century. The Jewish state is not going to have the Holocaust meted on the Jewish people. It's not going to happen. Never again is now, and we have to act now.
What is the goal of these strikes? You talked early in one of your speeches after the attacks began with a message directly to the Iranian people. Clearly, some of these strikes have targeted Iranian leadership, military, nuclear scientists, and other leaders. So is regime change part of the effort here?
For them, they oppressed them for 46 years. They've yearned for freedom. I mean, they shoot women because their hair is uncovered. They shoot students. They just suck the oxygen from this brave and gifted people, the Iranian people. And you know, the Persian people and the Jewish people have had an ancient friendship. Goes back to the times of Cyrus the Great. It could happen again.
Yeah, I don't know if any comments are getting deleted. It's not us. It's probably YouTube. If you can email me what the comments are, maybe I can tell you something why they. If it's like offensive towards something, YouTube has a automatic system to delete it.
But again, the decision to act, to rise up at this time is the decision of the Iranian people. We decided to act because we saw enough uranium, enriched uranium, for 9 bombs. And all they had to do was weaponize them. We stopped that. We're attacking their nuclear sites. We attacked their chief nuclear scientists working. It's like Hitler's nuclear scientists. Would you leave them? Of course not. We attacked their top command. I can inform you, Brett, that moments ago, we also got the chief intelligence officer and his deputy in Tehran, because we're now over the skies of Tehran. Our pilots, our brave pilots, are over the skies of Tehran, and we're targeting military sites, nuclear sites. That's what we're doing to take out those 2 threats. Unlike the Iranians, who your reporter said correctly, they're targeting our civilians.
Yeah.
They're bombing our civilians. So that's the difference. They're a terrorist regime. We can't have Iran have nuclear weapons. And by the way, our intel shows that they intend to give these nuclear weapons to their Houthi proxies and others. And that's nuclear terrorism on a global scale. It threatens everyone. And the last thing is, they have plans to develop intercontinental ballistic missiles. Right now, 8,000 kilometers, very soon, just add a little distance, and they can reach the eastern seaboard of the United States. These people who chant death to America, try to assassinate President Trump twice, killed 241 of your Marines in Beirut.
Yeah, that's the shocking part. We have covered this. During the election season last year, Iran really did not want President Trump to win the election. So they had like a bounty system here in the United States. And the situation actually got so bad that President Trump, this was before the election finished, when he was campaigning, he was using like a fake plane. So there was a Trump plane, and everyone would assume that Trump is using the Trump plane, but he was not, because he was like using a different plane that no one knew. And the information came out later because that was because of like, there was a very credible threat that Iran was trying to take out Trump.
And injured thousands of Americans.
Yeah, and like the James L said, there are a lot of sleeper cells here in the United States, and yeah, let's not even just in the United States. I'm sure in Israel too, because they just arrested a couple of people today. So that's also worrisome, because you never know if Iran really does think like, oh, U.S. is involved somehow, or let's say they have nothing to lose, they may activate those cells here in the United States.
American soldiers in Afghanistan and Iraq try to bomb a restaurant in Washington, D.C., chant death to America, burn the American flag. Do you want these people to have nuclear weapons and the means to deliver them to your cities? Of course not.
Yeah.
So we're defending ourselves, but we're also defending the world.
I want to talk about the nuclear threat, and I want to talk about President Trump. You just said Iran tried to assassinate President Trump twice. Do you have intel that the assassination attempts on President Trump were directly from Iran?
You know, this is like kind of off topic, but I still don't understand how burning the American flag is legal under First Amendment. I think that should be the one thing that should like get challenged in the Supreme Court again.
Through proxies, yes. Through their intel, yes. They want to kill him. Look, he's enemy number one. He's a decisive leader. He never took the path that others took to try to bargain with them in a way that is weak, giving them basically a pathway to enrich uranium, which means a pathway to the bomb, padding it with billions and billions of dollars. He took up this fake agreement and basically tore it up. He killed Qasem Soleimani. He made it very clear, including now, you cannot have a nuclear weapon, which means you cannot enrich. He's been very forceful. So for them, he's enemy number one.
Yeah.
Look, they also tried to kill me, but I'm his junior partner.
When did
they
you
understand that President Trump is a great threat to Iran's plans to weaponize nuclear weapons and use them.
When did you tell President Trump you were going to launch these strikes?
Look, I've been in constant contact with President Trump. We've known each other for many years. And obviously, we informed our American friends and President Trump, our great friend, ahead of time. We did. He knew about it, of course.
I mean, there were reports that President Trump kind of helped you achieve your strategic surprise by publicly urging you not to attack when he already knew you had decided to do it. So you were closely coordinating with the U.S. throughout this process.
Look, we're fully coordinated, but understand that America, under President Trump, will make the decisions that are best for America. And that's the way it is. He understands that I, as the Prime Minister of Israel, the one and only Jewish state, must make the decisions that are important for the survival of my country, and he will do what is best for America.
Also, he didn't really confirm, because people on Twitter were saying he confirmed that Trump kind of helped Israel.
It's a relationship of mutual respect and mutual confidence.
Does Israel have the capacity to strike Iran's nuclear sites deep underground?
Well, we've certainly done quite a bit. We've destroyed the main facility in Natanz. That's the main enrichment facility. And if we need to, we'll add whatever is needed. But yes, we're committed to achieving both goals. And I'm not going to get into all of our objectives. I don't want to get into specific operational plans. But it's our existence, but not only ours. I think it's a wider battle here of civilization against barbarism, of good against bad. I mean, this regime, look at what it's done without nuclear weapons. It's just fomented evil everywhere. I mean, they've pushed international terrorism to the hilt into every part of the Middle East, in Syria, in Iraq, Lebanon, where they had Hezbollah, Hamas, where they encouraged the Houthis, the great massacre of October 7th, the Houthis. That's what they're doing when they don't have nuclear weapons, including attacking American targets. So imagine what they'll do if they had nuclear weapons. And I'm always amazed at people who say they care about America and they don't want a war. They're right. This is a forever war that Iran is doing without nuclear weapons. And imagine what they will do if they have them. I think for the security of Israel, America, the world, we must make sure that they don't have these weapons and the means to deliver them. And they're working on both.
I just want to ask you about the nuclear sites. Fordo nuclear enrichment facility located.
So that's the one that might be getting attacked right now. Now, Will in the chat did say that report is not that accurate, but we don't know 100%. We'll probably know more as the morning time comes in Iran and Israel. But let's see what he says about that nuclear site.
Deep inside a mountain. These are from Iranian nuclear experts. Inside this mountain near Qom, Esfahan, deeply buried facility where Iran stores its highly enriched uranium. In some ways, experts say it might even be more important than Fordo. The IAEA says it's a half-mile deep. So I guess the question is...
Half a mile. Damn, that's deep.
If the goal is destroying Iran's nuclear program, how do you do so without the 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs that really only the U.S. has? Have you asked President Trump to use that 30,000-pound penetrator bomb to get to those facilities?
I'm not going to get into my discussions with the president, but understand that his decisions are his decisions. As for these targets, we've destroyed in Isfahan the conversion facility they had. That's a very important facility that without which you can't really build a weapon. That's gone. There are other plans that we have. I won't get into it. I think Israel has shown that it has well, how shall I say it? We're the innovation nation that we're called that, startup nation. So we have quite a few startups and quite a few rabbits up our sleeve. And I don't think that I should get into that.
Okay. Well, I mean, are you getting everything from the
fully-
U.S. that you've asked for? Is there something that you've asked for that you're not getting?
What I'll say this is that I deeply appreciate President Trump's decision to help in the defense of Israel. American pilots are shooting down drones that are headed towards Israel, as do our pilots. American THAAD.
Actually, we just sent another aircraft carrier to the Middle East because it's all the air defenses Israel has, and even the ones America is helping with. They're very successful, but they're not 100%. So more you can add on, the better.
Missile batteries are helping defend Tel Aviv and greater Tel Aviv area. American Aegis ships are in the Mediterranean. That's all a decision by President Trump, which I deeply appreciate. Again, his decisions on what to do at any given time is the president's decision. I trust his judgment completely.
Do you have any estimate on how much you have set back Iran's nuclear program?
I think we've set them back quite a bit. I think they were completely surprised. And surprise is a great element of success. Remember the pagers? Remember Nasrallah? That's part of breaking up the Iranian axis. And we achieved that with surprise. And I think we achieved a great surprise the other day when we started. We could wait and wait and wait. They'd string along the negotiations. We gave them a chance. I gave them a chance. But it was clear they were not serious about it. It became clear, I think, to the United States as well, because the president was very clear. He said, you can't have nuclear weapons. And in order not to have nuclear weapons, you can't enrich uranium. And they basically strung everybody along, and it was clear to us it was going nowhere. I could wait and wait and wait until they officially declared that the talks were off, or and we'd officially declare that we're going to attack them. That's not how I conduct wars, and it's not how Israel conducts wars. So we're geared to do whatever is necessary to achieve our dual aim, to remove two existential threats, the nuclear threat and the ballistic missile threat. And we're doing that as we speak now in Tehran, but we're not bombing the population. We're telling the population, leave. So when we hit the targets embedded in civilian areas, you won't be hurt. And there's now mass migration from Tehran right now. That's what's happening. So because we're giving them forewarning.
Mr. Prime Minister, what proportion of Iranian air defenses do you think you've taken out? Back in October, the air defenses were really decimated. Now you say you have kind of control of the skies as you're picking these targets, yet these missiles and drones are still coming your way as they attack, as you point out, civilian areas inside Israel.
Well, you're right. First of all, we're doing a lot to prevent a lot of them from coming in, but it's not hermetic. You're quite right. But when I say we have control of the skies, you correctly said that they had a very dense anti-aircraft batteries between the western border of Iran and Tehran, and basically our incredible, there's no other word to describe it, our incredible intel guys and the Mossad, they did wonderful work to peel off the layers of protection that they had, and our pilots took them out. And so we have a free highway to Tehran, and we can now pick off the targets that we need in Tehran and other places without having our planes shot down. And so far, none of them have been shot down. And I hope that continues. But we are absolutely resolute to remove this threat. This is what you have to do when you stand at the brink of catastrophe. And I think it's not just our test. Churchill talked about the slumber of democracies. He said that democracies tend to sleep until the jarring gong of danger wakes them up. Well, sometimes it might not wake them up. Certainly, we didn't need a wake-up gong. I've been talking about the Iranian threat for 40 years. 3 years, I think, 4 years after the Iranian regime, the Ayatollah regime, hijacked Iran and the people of Iran. I said the greatest threat facing Israel and potentially the world is this regime that will try to arm itself with nuclear weapons. And I've devoted a considerable part of my life, in fact, most of my life, to preventing that. And when the gong of danger sounds, and it's the last moment, it's the 12th hour, you've got to act. That's what responsible leaders do. And what I seek is that the entire world will do what President Trump is doing. He's standing up for good against evil. He's standing up for the right against the wrong. He's standing up for good against bad. And I think that's very admirable. I salute you for it, President Trump.
The president's also, however, Mr. Prime Minister, calling for Iran to get back to the table, to the negotiating table. You don't seem to be saying that that's worth it. How does this end?
Well, in fact, I said it is worth it if they'll do what the president wants, and that is eliminate their enrichment capacity. You know, that's a lot better than my country, my forces, my brave pilots having to do it. It's much better than our Mossad operatives on the ground having to do it. But if they don't do it, and they certainly didn't want to do it, it became very clear, we had to act. We don't wait until we have a nuclear holocaust. That's not going to happen again.
So how does it end?
Well, it'll end when we remove those capacities, and we will.
You stop short of killing Iran's civilian leaders, just military commanders, I mentioned, nuclear scientists, but not the supreme leader, Khamenei. There is a Reuters report just moving saying that President Trump in the last couple of days vetoed an Israeli plan to kill Iran's supreme leader, according to 2 U.S. officials. Is that true?
Actually, there's so many false reports of conversations that never happened, and I'm not going to get into that, but I can tell you, I think that we do what we need to do. We'll do what we need to do, and I think the United States knows what is good for the United States.
Well, technically, he didn't say that Reuters report is false, because it's not just Reuters now. A couple of other agencies are reporting it too. He just said there are so many false reports. And it's a very political way of like not giving an answer.
And I'm just not going to get it.
Okay.
That.
The Iran foreign minister today told reporters this: if Israel stops attacks on Iran, quote, our responses will stop. The attack on Iran in the midst of nuclear talks clearly demonstrates the Israeli regime's opposition to any form of negotiation. Of the canceled talks that were intended to take place today, he said Iran would have presented a counterproposal that, quote, could have opened doors for an all-out agreement with the Americans. So, again, the foreign minister saying, if you stop, they will stop. What's your response to that?
Well, first of all, it's hogwash. While they were negotiating, the Ayatollah himself, Khamenei, tweeted again and again, death to Israel. Israel must be destroyed. So some good faith there, right? Aside from that, they had bad faith because they were cheating, and we saw it in our intel. It was very clear. And the U.S. had that same intel. Believe me, we shared it. We share that intelligence. One of the great things of our unprecedented cooperation that has happened under President Trump is that we share every bit of information. So number one, he's lying. That's not new. Iran lies all the time. They cheat. But the second point is that they say, okay, we'll stop if you stop. Stop what? You'll continue to develop your engines of death, mass death, continue to develop your nuclear bombs, continue to develop the ballistic missiles like the one that fell in Tel Aviv, near Tel Aviv today. I was there, the whole building just slammed through. Children sleeping in their beds, killed. Women sleeping in their beds, killed. Horrible stuff. Yeah, they'll stop and continue to develop the means for our extermination. That's not going to happen. So obviously, that's not said in good faith. The issue here is not de-escalation. The issue here is not ceasefire. The issue here is stopping those things that will threaten our survival. And we're committed to stopping them. And I think we can achieve them. Now, if they are willing to accept President Trump's terms, that's a different matter. I said that months ago. And I said, and in my meeting with the president in Washington,
yeah, overnight,
if you can get a deal that does it, fine. But he didn't, not because the president didn't want it. It's because Iran didn't want it, and they cheated.
Overnight, you expanded your airstrikes to include oil and energy infrastructure in Iran. Is that a different phase? What's the point?
Well, this was an oil container. It wasn't a production site, but it merely means that we're ready to take whatever action is needed. And of course, we'll take some of those actions in response to what Iran does to us. But as I said, our main targets are the military and nuclear targets, and we're taking them out with the precision and with purpose.
We're not hearing much harsh criticism from the Gulf Arab countries. There have been some statements. Saudi Arabia putting out, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia expresses its condemnation, strong denunciation of the Israeli attacks that targeted the Islamic Republic of Iran, which violated sovereignty. These attacks represent a blatant violation of international laws and norms. That was early on, but not much since then. How do you judge the Gulf states' response to what's happening now?
Well, I'll leave that to them. They can they can speak for themselves. But I truly believe, that we have a great future if we take out Iran. Iran has been the systematic fomenter of wars, sabotage, terrorism. They attacked Aramco, the Saudi oil facilities. They send terrorists everywhere throughout the Middle East. So I think that I have a different conception, a different future. And it was embarked on with the help of President.
Saudi Arabia doesn't like Iran too. We looked at some clip yesterday. I'll pull it up later, but they're not a fan of Iran. And they have said publicly, if Iran gets nuclear weapons, Saudi will try to get nuclear weapons too.
Trump and his leadership and the Abraham Accords, where we signed peace treaties with 4 Arab states, expanding the peace, something that wasn't done for a quarter of a century. And I believe that we'll have opportunities to expand the peace as well with other of the Arab states next to us. I think they understand that Iran is a mortal threat to them as well. They have their eyes on their oil facilities. They want the waterways with the Houthis. They want to conquer the Middle East. And the one obstacle they've had so far is the state of Israel, because we're the ones fighting Iranians. And the other obstacle they have is President Trump. And I think, I'll tell you, they think that President Trump is an enormous obstacle. They think that Israel is a very big obstacle. And they're out to get us both. In fact, they tried to kill me too. They fired a missile into my bedroom window. They missed.
Wow. The Saudi Crown Prince, as you remember, in September of 23, told me he was getting closer every day to recognizing Israel and normalization. The very next day, you repeated that to me. Take a listen.
Reports that you had suspended talks. No, that's...
This is 23, so before October 7th, September 23.
That's not true. Not true.
Yeah, I noticed that too, Andrew. He's like, they tried killing me, and the host was like, wow.
You think, if you were to characterize it, are you close? Every day we get closer.
I know you heard those words from the Saudi Crown Prince. What was your response?
Well, I was delighted to hear what he had to say, and to borrow a phrase, I think we're getting closer to peace every day that passes.
Obviously, October 7th was just a few days later. Can you get back to that moment pre-October 7th?
I think what you heard was correct. One of the possible reasons for the timing of Hamas's attack, and remember, Hamas is one of Iran's terror proxies. One of the reasons that they may have brought up the attack, not even coordinated it with others as they were supposed to do, is perhaps that they were afraid that the words of the Saudi Crown Prince and my own words were about to materialize. But they will materialize one day, I'm sure of it. And that day will be a lot sooner once we get rid of this mortal threat that Iran poses not only to Israel, but to our Arab neighbors, to Europe, to the United States, to many others.
Last thing, Mr. Prime Minister, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about the situation in Gaza. One of the reasons it's not moving forward, the normalization, is because of how that's happening. Understand that you put the onus on Hamas for everything that's happening there. But as of now, we take the Gaza Health Ministry for what it is. They say the death is 55,000. The United Nations puts it at that number as well, but they're citing the Gaza Health Ministry.
We'll watch the WOW thing at the end. Epic Press.
Women and children making up half of the dead. Is there an Israeli estimate as far as the death in Gaza since the start of that operation?
Well, the ratio of civilian combatants to non-combatants is about 1-to-1, which is unheard of in such a dense urban environment. And that's happening because we're telling the population leave, and Hamas at gunpoint, and sometimes shooting them, saying stay in the war zone. That's why you have, or had, a lot of civilian casualties. That is decreased, and happily, because we're doing everything in our power to separate combatants from non-combatants. The reason this war has been going on for so long is, well, one primary reason is the hostages. They've taken hostages. Remember, this is the regime that took Americans hostage.
There's
That's how they began.
53 captives, less than half of them believed to be alive. Is that fair?
20 are alive. The rest, unfortunately, are not alive. But, we started out with, we've already brought back 202 hostages, most of them alive. Some people believed in the beginning of the war, in fact, the most senior military people, They said you will be lucky if we got one. And I said, no, I don't think so. I think that a combination of military and diplomatic pressure will get us, we can get them out. And I'm committed to getting all of them out. I've said 2 days ago, I've instructed our people to try to resume the negotiations for a ceasefire that would enable us to take Steve Witkoff, the American envoy, has made an offer to begin a 60-day ceasefire in which half of those hostages would be released right away. And I said, yes, we're ready to go. There's been some development there. I hope we are able to do that because I'm committed to getting them out. And I'm committed to getting them out and also to separate the Hamas from controlling the humanitarian aid that we're trying to give the people of Gaza, because they rob it, they steal it, and then they take a good chunk for themselves, and then they hike up the prices and give a pittance to the civilian population. So we have a plan that we devised with the help of American firms to separate the giving of the humanitarian aid to the population from Hamas control. And we're accused of starvation policies and all these other demonizations and vilifications against Israel. Look, we're a democracy fighting an island in a sea of evil, and we're doing what we can to remove this proxy, this Iran terror proxy as well. But the big problem, the big question for Israel, for humanity, for the world, for Israel and the United States is whether we can take away the weapons of mass death from this cult of death that is in Tehran. The tyrants of Tehran will not win. We, with God's help, we will win.
So just address the critics who say about Gaza that you're trying to make Gaza unlivable in order to push Palestinians out of the territory permanently. When they say that, what's the response?
Yeah. Well, because it's another lie. These are incredible lies. I think, first of all, no army in the history of the world has gone to the lengths that Israel has gone to separate combatants from non-combatants using millions of text messages, phone calls, you name it, everything. Leaflets even, getting the population out. Otherwise, we'd have an enormous number of civilian deaths. And of course, Israel has that firepower, but we don't use it because that's our moral base. But the other thing is equally that we're not trying to destroy Gaza. We're trying to remove the threat from Gaza. And as far as the choice of people, if they want to leave or not, President Trump has given a brilliant idea. He said, look, Gaza has to be rebuilt. It's been destroyed because every place is booby-trapped. So, the population finally leaves. They overcome the threats by Hamas to shoot them, and they just leave. They tell Hamas, leave our buildings, and they almost get shot by Hamas. But when they leave, they booby-trap everything. So when we come to fight the terrorists, they set off these charges and they kill our soldiers. What we do is we bring a supercharge. It detonates all the booby traps, and that's how you have buildings destroyed. We also go into tunnels. Sometimes at great sacrifice. Our UN ambassador, Leiter, had his son, 39-year-old father of 7, killed because he went as a reserve soldier to defuse these tunnels. But we put charges there. They blow up the tunnels. The tunnels are below buildings. The buildings collapse. So there's a lot of demolition in Gaza. It has to be rebuilt. President Trump said, okay, let the people have a choice. Why are they locked in? They're not locked in other battle scenes, and people leave by the millions in Ukraine, in Iraq, and Syria. They're left by the millions. In Gaza, they're locked in. He said, why? Give them a choice. If they want to leave to other locations, help them with a voluntary relocation. If they want to come back, they'll come back after the work of basically restructuring Gaza is complete. And I think that's a brilliant plan. I think it's all for the good. It's good for peace. It's good for Israel and the United States. I think it's good for Palestinians. They should be given a choice.
Mr. Prime Minister, very last thing. I asked you how long this may last. You said it's up to the Iranians. If you had the opportunity, and you do now, to speak directly to the Supreme Leader and to speak directly to the Iranian people, what are those two messages you'll say?
Well, the Iranian dictator, really, he's a dictator. He's a tyrant. He has sent us a message calling just about every day for the death of Israel, the destruction of Israel and America, but the death of Israel. So my answer to him is with action, not with words. But to the people of Iran, I say you're great people. You're people of great talent and genius. You have been usurped by this tyranny that has robbed you of hope, has robbed you of a good life. You know, I speak to the Iranian people directly. I don't know if you know this, Brett. I do these videos. I get millions and millions of responses. And they say, Viva Israel, bravo Israel, free us from this tyranny. And I say to them, your hour of freedom is near. Rise up, be free.
Mr. Prime Minister, we appreciate your time in the middle of a very...
And since he's talking about the oil, I want to show you guys this real quick. The oil is still flowing normally. Top Iranian oil terminal on this island. This is like the most important island for the Iranian economy. The whole economy is dependent on Kark Island. That's where a lot of the oil refineries are. And it's all moving normally. Even Strait of Hormuz traffic for all the countries. I think it's Saudi, UAE, Syria. What is this country? I'm blanking. I think one of them is Kuwait, one of them is UAE and Qatar. All the traffic, a lot of the countries use the Strait of Hormuz. 1/5 of the world oil comes through there. And so far, it's moving just fine. If anything happens to this, that's when you know it could become bigger than just the Israel-Iran war. When oil gets involved, that's when countries. Just saying, the reports of Khamenei assassination are multiplying in Iranian group chats. The reason Trump did not approve Israel assassinating Khamenei, I think is also you don't want to set the precedence of political assassination, because that's definitely, because when U.S. targeted Qasem Soleimani, he was a military guy. Israel targeted a lot of military people, but political leadership, that's like, then again, Iran was trying to assassinate Trump. So it's also, again, these are the kind of news we've been hearing for the last 3 hours. So this may not be true. If it's just news about Iran launching, if the missiles are already launched, then it's probably more real, because Iran has been talking about launching missiles for the last 3 hours. Oh, it is morning in Iran. This is 4 a.m. Wow, that's crazy. I think Telegram channels, if you're on Telegram channels, it looks, you get, oh, we see it, Tel Aviv, right here. It's live. Let's switch to the full screen. Yeah, we see something in Tehran. That's not the moon, is it? No. I mean, if this is the launch, I don't know if you guys see these thing in the air. It's like the pathway that Israel or missile or jets leave. If this is the launch, it's still going to take 10 minutes. Red alert, okay. Well, maybe it's true. Israelis are sending out alerts to their citizens. Kill switch. Iran always claims they send out 100 missiles every time. They'll overestimate how much they're sending, or maybe they just overstate it to, I guess, just scare the citizens. Spread propaganda, spread fear. Oh, yeah. Missiles from Iran heading towards Israel. Now, this is a pretty good account. Yeah, sirens are starting. Where are you guys following this? Sam, oh yeah, I hear it. maybe I'm just behind. Oh, I'm blocking the screen. Ooh, that's a big block. Yeah, I'll make myself small. Yeah, chat's ahead of the news. Chances are it's probably in Tel Aviv. Yeah. So I think we'll stay in this. We'll keep switching, but we'll stay in Tel Aviv mainly. Yeah, this is all live. The stream is live from Tel Aviv. Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, it's in Haifa? Okay, I'll pull up the Haifa stream. Hold on. Oh, it is in Haifa. Damn, that one stream. Looks like it's in Tel Aviv. Some air defense is off. Some of these are US. The stuff that's happening in space, that's all US systems, I think. Well, Iran was saying today is going to be bigger than yesterday, but then again, they like talking a lot. This is huge. The craziest comment I saw recently is if someone saw this in the 1200s, like back in the ancient time, they would think God is sending a signal. This is expensive on both sides, 100%. Oh wow, there's an impact right there. Is that an impact? Not sure. Yeah, this is happening live, F-22. Yeah, it does. Also, we have to realize that even if they take down the missile, that still makes an impact. It's just not as deadly as the impact. Oh, they need to show that impact on the right. That was not good. That did not sound good. This is Israel, Muchi. Yeah, debris is still deadly, just not as deadly as fully intact. Is it any other cities? It's just mostly Tel Aviv, it seems. It's over. Now we'll find out what the damage is. Haifa hit hard too. Oh, right here. We can see it on Haifa actually on the screen. In the corner. I don't know if you guys see it. You guys see it, yeah. This is live, T-Res. Yeah, if Iron Dome wasn't there, I don't think there would be a population in Israel. It would be unsafe as hell. Let's see if we can get any footage. I'll close a lot of tabs so it's easier for me to manage.
Guadalcanal.
I'm just trying to find clips of the impact. Oh, right here. These were coming from Iran, so this is probably from Tehran. Wonder if I can go back here. This is just replay. The drones Iran is sending, those are not successful. Yeah, THAAD is shooting everything outside of space, exo-atmospheric. People are out in Iran. I guess Iran, yeah, different scenario. The drones that Iran is sending, those are not getting through. Ballistic missiles are really what's like tough to stop. Some account just claimed Haifa power station destroyed. We'll wait for the confirmation, especially the accounts with no history of reporting news. I don't trust them that much. That one we want to see. We don't see it, but that one would be insane. Wait, do you guys hear a kid? Oh, this is still going on. More missiles are coming. Let's switch to the live feed. Oh yeah, more missiles are still coming. So far the Israeli defense have like a 90 to 95% hit rate, so they're stopping 95% missiles. But even if 1-2 get through, we just saw one of them, how much damage they do. Like, it's truly insane. And that's just the ones that are getting through. But even the ones that are stopping, the debris is quite deadly, as James said in the chat. Sirens are still going. Iran is under missile strikes too. No, 100%. In no way am I arguing that Israel's losing, but I'm just saying these missiles that are getting through are still very, very damaging, especially to like the infrastructure and civilians too. I think Israel had 4 or 5 deaths already. Nothing compared to what Iran is losing, but still not good. We have more footage. We were watching Tel Aviv. I think most of the action happened in Tel Aviv, but I think Haifa, there were some attacks too. Oh, there's one impact we see right there. Also, another part of the air defense is if like air defenses calculate that it's just going to hit an empty field, they just let it go. They're not going to waste an interceptor on it. I think it's over. I don't hear the sirens either. We're live on multiple cities.